This time I get to talk about something that is one of my favorite topics. And by the way, if you get to know me, you'll know I say that pretty much every time, because there's a lot of things I love talking about. I talk a lot about stress, which I know sounds weird, but I love stress because it's just this really interesting topic that we all talk about, but none of us really know what it means or are clear about how it impacts us. So I do like talking about that. I also love talking about the brain. And this afternoon, I'm going to get a chance to do a breakout session actually talking about your brain, which I believe is your most valuable resource. And most of us don't recharge our brain enough and effectively enough. In fact, I brought kind of my recharge strategies up here with me, and I'm glad that the session before me talked about vulnerability because I wasn't planning on doing this. But when I was sitting over there listening to all of these amazing speakers getting more and more nervous and having all of these negative thoughts about how I could never live up to all of these incredible speakers, I felt like I needed to have my security blankets with me. And one of those, if you've been here before, you might recognize is my little Melvin the monkey. And when you squeeze him, his heart pops out. I'm going to tell you something I don't usually tell people. We actually call that in my inner circle a heart on. If you say it fast, it's kind of funny. Yeah. So there's that. I also will tell you that since the last time I was here, I have been carrying my Melvin monkeys in my Gen W bag, which is awesome, so I always have that with me. I also have aromatherapy, my notes, my water, and my notes are upside down. There we go. So I've been doing this for 15 years, and you might think it's weird that I have to have all of this stuff, but the fear and the anxiety and the stress doesn't go away. And I thought because of the theme of all of this, it would be helpful to share that. And the way we started this morning was that if we're going to be transformational leaders, we also need to know that we feel the fear and the anxiety, and we do it anyway. And that's been a big part of my journey. I hear my voice already starting to get emotional about this, but my two biggest fears are actually public speaking and flying. And I told you I'm not local, so I've done both of those recently. And the reason I do that is because the passion that I have for this topic and for the people that I get to connect with is so powerful. It's bigger than me. And the more I open myself up and share my own struggles with an anxiety disorder since I was about 10 years old that actually caused me to start fainting. I went to a lot of different doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And it was all anxiety induced. So of course, what do they say? It's all in your head, or it's just stress. And a 10-year-old child learning that it's too much stress is pretty stressful, right? So I have decided to walk this path and do things that terrify me because I know that there are other people out there who have things happening to them and they feel like I have all of this information. Why am I still getting hijacked by my own brain or my own body? It's so confusing. And when we share those experiences and we hear other people saying, I've had that experience as well, there's nothing more powerful or bonding than to know we're going through something difficult together. In fact, I'll share with you that one of the coolest nuggets in research I feel like that we've learned recently is that when we experience something challenging with other people, it actually helps our brain to get stronger. So the chemical cortisol, which typically builds or breaks down our brain and makes our brain atrophy, when we have cortisol plus oxytocin, it makes our brain stronger. And as women, we have this natural ability to actually have more oxytocin in our system. It's why we need to really lean on each other and communicate with each other so that when we're going through something difficult, we can know that we can do this together and it's gonna help us to be healthier and happier. And so what I wanna spend the next few minutes talking to you about is one of the ways that I have really leaned into to help me to actually do that. And it is healthy humor. So I do have a few slides that I want to share with you. Also, by the way, if you want to write down how to connect with me, please feel free. But I never, ever put up handles during a talk because I'd really rather you just hang out with me for the next few minutes. So please don't feel like you need to be doing anything other than just being totally present. So why do we need humor at this moment? Well, I'll give you a couple of reasons. Number one is we're dealing with this serious stress mess where we tend to say, I'm stressed, and we brush it off into a bucket and we pretend like it goes away, but we carry it around on our back all day long, and it's impacting us and it's spilling out to impact the people around us. At the same time, we are being pulled in so many different directions. And so if we're not careful, we can find ourselves getting hijacked by our own brain. I don't know about you, but I wake up in the morning wanting to be patient, loving, and kind. But when the first thought that comes to mind is, I don't have enough time to get it all done, my husband will tell you that's not really how I show up. Especially with my husband. By the way, it's his birthday today. So I'm flying home right after this to spend the time with him. But he's one of the most annoyingly positive people I've ever met in my life, which is also why I married him a little over a year ago. And he'll be talking and I'm like, land the plane, honey, land the plane. Like, finish the conversation already, right? I love you more than anything in this world, but I have stuff to do. So I woke up as this really loving, sweet person. And then the number one thing, by the way, that we all have in common, most people wake up and feel like there's not enough time to get it all done. Do any of you ever have that happen? Your brain is hijacked now for the rest of the day unless you go back and actually intentionally recharge it with something. Your battery is starting to wear out faster than it should, and we'll talk more about that actually in the breakout session. But we need a way to recharge ourselves, and healthy humor turns out to be one of the best ways to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about what humor is, and I pushed the button too fast. So we're going to try to go back a little bit. Okay, so some different definitions of humor. The first one is a comic, absurd, or incongruous quality causing amusement. So humor is not about joke telling. You don't have to be funny to see funny. In fact, just seeing things as ironic or interesting or amusing is going to give you all the benefit. So don't worry, you don't have to try to tell jokes or tell a funny story to find things funny. And I find stuff funny all the time. Works really well for me. It's also a mood or a state of mind. And my favorite is it could also be bodily fluid. Now that's funny to me because that's such a weird thing that fits with these other things that I find that amusing. But that's my kind of humor. We also have comedy. And you might wonder what comedy is. In my bio, it mentioned I'm part of a group called the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. And our conference is actually going on right now. And I'm missing it because I committed to Donna a couple of years ago. And as you all know, Donna is very convincing. And when you say yes, you show up. So here I am, talking about healthy humor, so it works out really well. So one of the things I've learned by actually studying humor is that oftentimes what we find funny are the challenges we go through. So Carol Burnett has said, as many other comedians have said, that comedy is tragedy plus time. Because a lot of times it's what's really painful that we can learn to play with a little bit, that we are then able to laugh at. But very important to understand that how we do that is critical, meaning that we're not laughing at other people. And also as women, I want to tell you, it's very important that we're not laughing at ourselves. We can laugh at what we do, but we should never laugh at who we are. And that is really important. There's a study that came out recently that said when women use humor at work, it's seen as negative. And when men use it, it's seen as positive. And I'm actually working on an opinion piece about this to clarify actually what's going on, because there are different humor styles. And if I'm in front of a group, which oftentimes is 90 or more % men, and I get up here and put myself down, they don't find that funny. In fact, they're expecting me to show up and be confident. And that's important for us to be able to do, which, by the way, we can also do in a very feminine way. We don't have to change our voices to sound like men in order to do that. But we can be playful, we can be ironic, we can use wit, we can use all of these other types of humor, which, by the way, are very intelligent, to create a bonding experience with the other people in the room. So the type of humor we use may be very important, but I think that we need to also understand that sometimes just playing with the stuff that happens. I mean, I'm an expert on stress, so I can guarantee you that something's going to go wrong in this presentation, right? Because otherwise, how do you know I'm an expert? So I just show up expecting it, and then I decide to play with it when it happens, and it makes everyone feel more comfortable, which is one of the great things about humor. So specifically where humor happens in the brain, you may not care, so just roll with me for a second, because I think this is fascinating, is it actually hits 3 different parts of the brain. So at the base of the brain, we have the brain stem, and typically this is going to be initiated by laughter. Too fast. Hold the phone. There we go. Laughter, ha-ha, ha-ha, helps us to get circulation going. We feel it in our body, and it activates the brainstem, which is our sensing of information. Now, when we have humor, like finding something funny, it's an emotional experience. So you can see something that just looks odd or different and be amused by it, and it's actually going to calm down the fear center of the brain and make you feel more safe. And then wit, which is my favorite, is that quirky, intelligent humor of like getting the joke. And I call this ha ha, ho ho, and hee hee. I have a terrible joke because I don't tell jokes, but the one I always use, because it's not very many words to just give you this experience, and I'm not making light of this, so please hear me when I say this. It's a dyslexic man walks into a bra. I know, it's really a terrible joke, but it's the only thing I can remember. And why is that funny? There's a couple things happening. You're not expecting me to say that, and then you get the joke, which, by the way, if you get the joke, whether you laugh or not, it activates a whole brain recharge process. Because you just got it. I know that sounds really crazy, but this is so powerful. I have friends that are in the lab that actually show that when you find something funny, not only does it reduce cortisol and inflammation in the body, but it actually puts the brain into something called a gamma wave state. And the only other way you get there is to go live in an ashram for years and years and years and learn how to meditate, which sounds awesome to me, but don't have the time to actually do that. So finding something funny is like a shortcut to the ashram. All right, so I want to give you another chance to experience a different type of humor with a very short video. So good, right? So I don't have a lot of time with you, and if I was super focused on time, I would say skip the video because I have too much stuff to say. But what happens when we take a few moments to just experience joy and amusement and pleasure and happiness and humor? It lifts the whole energy of the room, and it's not about me being funny, it's about us seeing funny and sharing that experience together. Now here's another one someone sent me recently, which of course I love because it's all about the brain. See if you get it. Do you get it? Brain freeze, brain freeze, brain freeze. Right? So good. So if we're going to talk about humor, I have to mention unhealthy humor. Unfortunately, anything that's powerful can be used for bad purposes. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of this right now. I've actually had a chance to get to know, and I don't know if all of you guys are going to know who this is, you might be too young, but a brilliant Russian comedian by the name of Yakov Smirnoff. Any of you remember Yakov? He actually was going to come and be here with me and had a conflict. So in the next couple of years, I'm going to do my best to get him out here. He's actually doing a dissertation right now about women and stress. So of course, we got to know each other because I had a lot to say about that. So now we're friends, and one of the things he talked about in my podcast recently is the way that our humor has evolved. And he said, you know, back in the day, we used to laugh together, and now we laugh at each other. And his show, which is now in Branson, is called Make America Laugh Again. And it's not to laugh at other people. It's to come together with a supportive way of using healthy humor to connect again, and I think that that's really important. So, of course, we have to keep in mind that it can be used in negative ways. So a couple of things I just want to run through quickly, because I tend to do a longer presentation about this, is humor at work is a really great strategy. There's a lot of things that actually happen. Health and happiness, brain performance, communications, relationships, even sales and marketing strategies. I'm going to run through these here with you really quickly, but I didn't want to do it yet. Hold the phone. Okay, so the comic, just in case you can't see it, says laughter is the best medicine, which is fortunate since that's all our health plan now offers. Now, this is the way we can use, oftentimes, humor in a healthy way to communicate sometimes a challenging message. Not to make light of it, but to actually say, this is difficult, we're all in this together. Now, as soon as you find something funny, the brain works better. So you can problem solve more effectively if you can find something ironic, amusing, or funny about it. So here are those kind of breakdowns in each of those different categories. Just breathe through it, it's gonna be okay. Oh, there we go. I didn't want to if you hit the clicker too fast, it goes too fast. So health and happiness, anti-aging, reduces stress, lowers cortisol, all of these great things happen in the body. And again, you don't have to laugh to make these happen. So it's not that it's a physical thing causing a physical thing, it's your brain changing your body's chemistry, which is so powerful. Brain performance, so your brain works better. You remember things more effectively. Because those stress hormones are coming down, you can navigate things more effectively. The human brain is awesome. It functions 24 hours a day from the day we're born and only stops when we're taking an exam or falling in love. Oh, I have another short video. I was trying to click it, but the monkey didn't want to get off the screen. It was like, stop. So when you tell people you love monkeys, they send you all sorts of monkey stuff. By the way, feel free, send it to me. I love it. Just a little break like that in the middle of the day helps to recharge your battery. It's great. So communications, when we're talking about things that are difficult, using some humor, especially kind, healthy humor, is a good way to help us to listen. It lowers status. It brings everybody back to the same level playing ground. Again, being strategic about this, being playful about it, not laughing at people in order to bring them down and elevate ourselves. Very important, of course. We also have relationships for a lot of the same reasons. We have shared experiences with people. We have quality time, more time, better time. I know that I've started to be intentional about surrounding myself with people who like to have fun and see the positive side of life, because we also have something called a negativity bias that's built into all of us. We have 5 times more negative, fear-based circuits in the brain than positive. We pay attention about 80% more to the negative things than the positive things. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I actually used to work for Disney World down in Orlando. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's 7 dwarfs. Only one of them's happy. I was so bad. I just can't pull it off. I can't, but okay, I did, and there are, and okay. So sales and marketing, ditto from last time. It's a talk trigger. You know what's so crazy is this little monkey that I actually started making because I was so anxious up on stage. I would put it by the clock so I wouldn't have a panic attack. And then I'd be traveling and I'd see someone else struggling and I'd give it to them and I'd share my story. And now I go and I do media and I'm on the news, and I did a segment last year. And I had the monkeys with me because I'm holding them underneath. You'll never see my hands on the news because I'm always rubbing the monkey's butt. And and the news anchor, after the commercial break, came back and he's still hanging out with the monkey. And he's like, wasn't that just the greatest segment? I mean, doesn't she just make you feel so calm? And I'm like, oh my gosh, if they only knew, right? So when we use humor and play and amusement and all of that and allow ourselves to be vulnerable with other people, it gets sticky. People remember it. Think about the commercials that we remember the most from sporting events. They tend to be those that are funny. Okay, I got one more video, and I think this makes a perfect point of pulling all of this together and all of those different things that I was just sharing with you.
Whoa, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are 2 people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
No, well, there's not enough left to do, is it?
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
He said he can fix it. All right. All right. That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
Life is good when I see the sunlight in the morning. Lying in my bed.
Okay.
It's Monday, 10 a.m.
So we actually saw a couple of different types of humor in that one. There, oops. Oh, way too far. We only have a couple more to go. Oh, uh-oh, there we go. Thank you, whoever's helping me. Couple types of humor in there, but it made an important point, right? We can all relate to that. It was funny, but it also made an important point about the way we are in, society today and things like that. But there's also, one of my favorite things, anticipatory humor. And I could feel it in the room because you start to predict what's gonna happen. And when you get it right, didn't it feel good? I knew the second escalator was gonna stop. I totally knew that. I totally saw that coming. You feel people starting to get excited about that. So this is brain recharge. It's one of the best things that we could actually do. So very quickly, I wrote a book recently called What's So Funny About Stress. It's just a little book. It's just to share this idea. I wrote it with my bestie. Her name is Karen Buxman. She's also, she calls herself a neurohumorist, where she studies the impact of humor on the brain. That's her. We're actually doing a fundraiser for Alzheimer's. She was behind me making funny faces. She's the silly one out of the 2 of us. I'm kind of more the nerd. But she's taught me things over time. And for the last 5 years, almost every single day, she'll text me a picture of something that she finds funny. Now, I'm going to tell you one other thing that I find really hysterical, just to let you know. I asked them to let me know how much time I had to make sure I wasn't rushing through the end of this, and they said they'd put up 10 minutes, which is great, but I don't know when it went up, and it was up there the whole time, and now it says wrap it up. Now that's funny, right? Like, that's super funny to me. So I'm going to wrap it up really quickly. Seek funny, see funny, soak in funny, meaning take your time to enjoy it. Take a picture, share it with somebody. Build a funny folder of things you find along the way, create a funny playlist, share it with somebody, you're gonna get more oxytocin. Be a funny buddy, have somebody where you just say, for the next 21 days, let's share something funny with each other every day. Just for you guys, I wanted everybody to be able to have a copy of this actually, so you'll get a free copy of the book. I didn't want to deal with trying to sell them or anything like that, so if it's helpful for you, please grab a copy. And I want to encourage you over the next 21 days to go on your own 21-day challenge and actually look for things that are funny, share things that are funny with each other. You will be amazed. Last little thing I want to tell you is that when I did a cognitive emotional test on my brain, I found out that I was so far on the spectrum of negativity bias that I felt like a horrible person, even though I have to say I think I'm one of the nicest people I know. So I was very confused by that. Negativity bias doesn't mean you're a negative person. It means you're threat sensitive to things happening in your environment. And with an anxiety condition since I was a child, that wasn't really a surprise. When I did a humor intervention and I actually paid attention to funny things for just 30 days, I ended up in a healthy, normal range for my negativity, positivity bias, and I felt like a different person. So this isn't just a good idea. I just gave myself goosies, by the way. This isn't just a good idea. This is really powerful. This helps you to be the boss of your own brain by being intentional and strategic about using healthy humor.